Are you planning on running for re-election?
Yes, I am.
And why should...
He's gonna run for re-election. Bro, your own party does not want you to run for re-election. George Santos, the gift that keeps on giving. Or rather, the grift that keeps on giving. As we anticipated months ago, on this program, the chickens have finally come home to roost with this compulsive, lying grifter. On Wednesday, May 10th, the U.S. Attorney's Office of the Eastern District of New York, which is the most badass when it comes to financial crimes district, U.S. Attorney's Office, has unsealed a 13-count indictment against the still sitting congressman from the 3rd District of New York. The indictment alleges that Santos committed fraud, money laundering, theft of public funds, and false statements. According to the press release by the Department of Justice, he is alleged to have been responsible for the following crimes. And we are saying alleged, even though all the information is out there in public, because until he's found guilty in a court of law, that is the proper thing to do. Let's get into it. So first, he is accused of fraudulent political contribution solicitation scheme. Beginning in September of 2022, during his successful campaign for Congress, Santos operated a limited liability company, known as Company One, through which he allegedly defrauded prospective political supporters. Santos enlisted a Queens-based political consultant, known as Person One, to communicate with prospective donors on Santos's behalf. Santos allegedly directed Person One to falsely tell donors that, among other things, their money would be used to help elect Santos to the House, including by purchasing television advertisements. In reliance on these false statements, 2 donors, Contributor 1 and Contributor 2, each transferred $25,000 to Company One's bank account, which Santos controlled directly. As alleged in the indictment, shortly after the funds were received in Company One's bank account, the money was transferred into Santos's personal bank account, in one instance laundered through 2 Santos personal accounts. Santos allegedly then used much of that money for personal expenses. Among other things, Santos allegedly used the funds to make personal purchases, including designer clothing, withdraw cash, discharge personal debts, and transfer money to his associates. All of these things are illegal under campaign finance laws. Now, there's some give and take about the designer clothing, but everything else in there is directly against U.S. campaign finance laws. Secondly, he is accused of unemployment insurance fraud scheme. Beginning in approximately February of 2020, Santos was employed as a regional director of a Florida-based investment firm, known Investment Firm One. In response to the outbreak of COVID-19 in the United States, a new legislation was signed into law that provided additional funding to assist out-of-work Americans during the pandemic. In mid-June of 2020, although he was still employed and not eligible for unemployment benefits, Santos applied for government assistance through the New York State Department of Labor, allegedly claiming falsely to have been unemployed since March of 2020. Man, he just, when Republicans say, oh, people like to scam the system and all this, they're talking about themselves. Really? What is it? Marjorie Taylor Greene got COVID investment funds, Tim Pool, PragerU, like all these people that had no business getting funds because they were still employed, they were still making money because they're working from home or whatever. Every single one of them has gotten COVID relief funds. Actually, I'll take the Tim Pool one back because I'm not sure about that one, so scratch that one out. But I know PragerU did, Marjorie Taylor Greene did, pretty sure Lauren Boebert did. A lot of people that were still making money, their businesses were still in operation, received funds from COVID relief. Something that shouldn't have happened. And George Santos decided to get on that grift train too. Continuing on though, from that point of March and until April of 2021, when Santos was working and receiving a salary on a near continuous basis and during an unsuccessful run for Congress, he falsely affirmed each week that he was eligible for unemployment benefits when he was not. As a result, Santos allegedly fraudulently received more than $24,000 in unemployment insurance benefits. Man, it would have been nice to have that money when I was unemployed. Wait, I was actually unemployed, so I got some of that money. But he was not unemployed. They should not have gotten any of it. Now, finally, he is accused of false statements to the House of Representatives as well. The indictment describes Santos's alleged efforts to mislead the House of Representatives and the public about his financial condition in connection with his 2 congressional campaigns. Santos, like all candidates for the House, had a legal duty to file with the clerk of the House of Representatives a financial disclosure statement, House disclosures, before each election. In each of his House disclosures, Santos was personally required to give a full and complete accounting of his assets, incomes, and liabilities, among other things. He certified that his House disclosure were true, complete, and correct, which, if not, is a lie under oath, essentially. In May of 2020, in connection with his first campaign for election to the House, Santos filed 2 House disclosures in which he allegedly falsely certified that during the reporting period, his only earned income consisted of salary, commission, and bonuses totaling $55,000 from another company, thus far known as Company 2, and that the only compensation exceeding $5,000 he received from a single source was an unspecified commission bonus from Company 2. In actuality, Santos allegedly overstated the income he received from Company 2 and altogether failed to disclose the salary he received from investment firm 1. In September of 2022, in connection with his second campaign for election to the House, Santos filed another House disclosure in which he allegedly overstated his income and assets. In this House disclosure, he falsely certified that during the reporting period, the following: that he had earned $750,000 in salary from DeVolder Organization LLC, a Florida-based entity of which Santos was the sole beneficial owner. He had received between $1 million and $5 million in dividends from DeVolder Organization LLC. In other words, under-reporting his salary. He had a checking account with deposits between $100,000 and $250,000, and he had savings accounts with deposits of between $1 million and $5 million. As alleged in the indictment, these assertions were false. Santos had not received from the DeVolder LLC the reported amounts of salary or dividends, and did not maintain checking or savings accounts with deposits in the reported amounts. Further, Santos allegedly failed to disclose that in 2021, he received approximately $28,000 in income from investment firm number 1 and more than $20,000 in unemployment insurance benefits from the New York system of Department of Labor, NYSDOL. The charges in the indictment are merely allegations, and the defendant is presumed innocent until proven guilty. If convicted of the charges, Santos faces a maximum penalty of 20 years in prison for the top counts. A federal district court judge will determine any sentence after considering the U.S. sentencing guidelines and other statutory factors. The FBI is investigating the case with the assistance of the Nassau County District Attorney's Office, the IRS Criminal Investigation Division, and the U.S. Department of Labor Office of the Inspector General. Whew, that's a lot, bro. So, all in all, Santos, as we have known, has been a lying, grifting piece of crap. And now, as we said at the top of this segment, he is getting charged and arrested for crimes in connection to his lying, grifting ways. He admitted previously to fraud in Brazil, stealing money from relatives, lying about his his family's heritage and Nazis and Jewishness and a bunch of other stuff, claiming he was Jewish. So funny, Mr. Catholic guy from Brazil, among other things. But we have to continue on. Given the preponderance of evidence against him that we've reported of these crimes since he was sworn into Congress, it shouldn't surprise anyone that he was arrested and formally charged this week. We are going to now turn to his press conference and get some insights into his legal defense.
I know you all have questions. I know that everybody's been waiting for the moment for me to come out and talk to you guys. Look,
So this is right after arraignment. This is right after he issued his not guilty plea. So this is the first time that the press is hearing him speak about any of this since actually being formally charged. Let's listen to what he has to say a little bit.
This is the beginning of the ability for me to address and defend myself. We have an indictment. We have the information that the government wants to come after me on, and I'm going to comply. I've been complying throughout this entire process. I have no desire not to comply at this point. They've been gracious in there. Now I'm going to have to go and fight to defend myself. The reality is it's a witch hunt because.
So it's a witch hunt, pulling of the typical now Republican refrain. Anytime any of them are confused of doing anything wrong, it is a political witch hunt designed to go after our political enemies. But unlike other news bite things and stuff like that are happening to other political people, this is not at all politically driven. There's no even ounce of political bias that is being done in this at all, because even among Republicans, especially those in Nassau County, are wanting him to resign in disgrace because they don't believe him. But let's hear him out a little bit. Let's hear him out.
It makes no sense that in 4 months, 5 months, I'm indicted. You have Joe Biden's entire family.
There it is. There it is. So Joe Biden, I have to deflect to Joe Biden, the Republicans' whipping boy, because of all this kind of nonsense. Everybody's got to be focused on what Joe Biden supposedly did. And we are going to get into that later in this program because, you know, Republicans have been investigating the financial relationships of Hunter Biden and what those financial relationships might or may not implicate Joe Biden in. And boy, is it funny when we're going to talk about that. Let's hear him out a little bit more, though. Let's hear him out a little bit more. Maybe he says something that actually makes sense. Who knows?
Receiving deposits from 9.
Oh, wait. I want to point out one thing. Hold on.
9.
I think those are Ray-Bans. Yeah. Probably use some of that money to get those glasses.
Family members receiving money from foreign destinations into their bank accounts. It's been years.
Yeah, that's not necessarily a crime, Mike, dude. Sorry for you. Sorry you couldn't get in on that grift, and so you have to be mad about it.
Of exposing, a lot of you here have reported on them, and yet no investigation is launched into them.
That is false. There is currently investigation into Hunter Biden's financial dealings, both domestically and in foreign capacity, by the Department of Justice under a special counsel, similar to how a special counsel was investigating Trump during the Mueller investigation. And this is actually a Republican, or at least a Republican-leaning special counsel that is investigating this, in addition to what the House of Representatives has investigated as well, using their powers to subpoena to go after those records. Again, we will talk about that later in this program or in the other video if you're watching this on YouTube later. And it's gonna be a good time. It's gonna be a good time.
I'm gonna fight. I'm getting back to that. I'm gonna fight my battle. I'm gonna deliver. I'm gonna fight the witch hunt. I'm gonna take care of clearing my name, and I look forward to doing that.
I don't think it's possible for him to completely clear his name just because he's admitted to lying so much. I don't know, but that's just me.
Now, hold on.
What do you say to that?
I would like the opportunity for some of you guys to ask some questions in an orderly fashion, and we'll start right here.
Congressman
Go ahead,
George
Rachel.
Santos, why would you apply for unemployment benefits when you had a job making $120,000 a year?
Rachel, this
Yeah, why is that? Is it because you didn't think the government would find out and you just wanted some more money? Probably.
is part of my defense. This is inaccurate information, and I will get to clear my name on this. During the pandemic, it wasn't very clear. I don't understand where the government's getting their information, but I will present my facts.
Prosecutors say that you got over. Excuse me. Prosecutors say that you got over $20,000 in unemployment benefits, sir. How is that acceptable?
Ma'am, like I said, my employment was changed during the time. I don't understand where the government's coming from. I'll present my defense.
And one last follow-up.
Oh, So here's what I think happened. This is pure speculation on my part. Take it with a grain of salt, but I think it's probably a little true. At some point during the pandemic, George Santos was actually unemployed. He probably was. He probably is actually unemployed. And then, as he said, his employment changed. Maybe he was getting a severance check, or maybe he was not getting one, and he got his job back or something. But he continued to say, yes, I am entitled to unemployment, because he just wanted the money. I could see that. It's still a crime. It's still a crime, though.
What evidence do you have that they don't have? Because it's extensive.
I have plenty of evidence that we will now be sharing with the government in this case to make sure that I can defend my innocence.
Are you planning on running for re-election?
Yes, I am.
And why should...
He's gonna run for re-election. Bro, your own party does not want you to run for re-election. Why are you going to drag yourself through this? Is it you're just got like... Is it the idea that you've dug yourself in so much you just got to dig your way out by going all the way through the earth to get to the other side? Is that what we're going with now? Is that how it is? If you just say, oh, it didn't happen long enough that people will just eventually forget? Do you think that's going to work? No one likes you, dude. The Republicans don't like you. They thought they could have had a token gay guy. But now you've lied so much, and like, oof, I can't. No, too much. We like our liars to lie about things that can't be proven, right? We like our liars to be able to keep that lie going, so it makes us look better. But you, my friend, you f***ed up. And I think this only goes on for about another minute, so let's go ahead and let it continue.
Anybody believe you now?
Well, yeah. Like I said, I will prove myself innocent, and then we'll move from there. And re-election is a very far time away from
He's right, man. The American polity has a memory of a goldfish when it comes to stuff like this at times. Oh, he's right. It is a very long time before 2024's election kicks off and goes in earnest. And maybe people will forget. Maybe being a Republican is enough for him to skate by in his district, and it's pretty solidly Republican. But man, like the balls on this dude.
I'm sorry for blocking the $750,000. They said that you reported that wrongly. Do you have any comment to that?
Well, like I said, I will be giving them all. We'll be delivering all the finances of my company. I'm delivering all my finances to them to dispel their accusation against me.
And again, you will not resign.
I will not resign.
No, he won't. There's no. The thing about the resigning thing, though, is that there's really no incentive to resign because there isn't any ability for him to get kicked out in disgrace, or at least we'll talk about that later, actually. But yeah, that's why he's not going to resign. There's no point. There's no reason for him to. He's still going to get his Congress check. He's still going to be able to do these press conferences. He's still going to be able to raise money. He's still going to be able to be a Republican and get Republicans on his side by voting for Republican things. So why would you resign? There's no point. There's no point. Especially if you don't have any scruples. And this guy clearly doesn't have scruples. I mean, after all, he likely stole money from people to buy Ray-Bans. For fuck's sake.
And use that money to buy expensive suits.
No, I did not.
Do you think you'll win re-election?
Expensive suits, they say. Yeah. I wouldn't have worded that question that way. I would have said clothing, accessories, etc. Maybe he wouldn't have he would have probably answered the same way. I mean, obviously, but that would have been more of a gotcha question. After all, he's wearing Ray-Bans.
That's not up for me to know. Elections are very tricky, and it's up to the people. I trust them to decide what's best for them.
Congressman, you've admitted to lying in the past. What do you think will make people believe you this time around?
Well,
yes,
look, like I said, I've asked many times, I want to be judged by the work I do in the body, and I stay committed to that.
There it is. That's it. That's what it is. He is going to play the part. It is so easy to play the part. All he has to do is continue to give the Republican base red meat after red meat, that delicious red meat, over and over again. And then maybe, just maybe, all his sins will be forgiven. Praise Jesus. Right? That's how you wash away sins in the Republican Party right now. You play the game, you do the ideological thing, and they will forgive everything. And that is why he's saying that he wants the people to judge him based on the work in Congress, not on his character, not on the fact that he lied to people, not on the fact that he stole money, not on the fact that he is a grifting piece of shit, but by his ability to play the game. That's what this is. And that might partly be why Congress is not keen on expelling him. But again, we'll get to that in a moment.
Are you headed to Washington now?
Yes, I am. I have to go back and vote. Tomorrow we have one of the most consequential votes in this Congress, which is a border bill, and I'm very looking forward to being there to vote on it.
Right now.
Well, I'm not going to address just the speaker. I'll address leadership. I appreciate everybody's patience with my presence in Congress, as you know, the media has its ways of doing things, and I respect you guys. I've maintained good rapport with a lot of you guys. I've spoken with a lot of you guys, and I have the intention to continuing that open door. Some of you who are from the Hill know how to find me. Some of you here from the district don't have a hard time finding me. It's about keeping in line of communication. So
it's true. He's right about that. It helps his case, actually.
And for allowing the process to play out. I think this is about innocent until proven guilty. This starts. I have my right to fight to prove my innocence, as the government has a right to fight to try to find me guilty in whatever charges.
Why haven't you?
I mean, that's a completely fair response on that one. Honestly, good for him. Good for him. We can give him a good response, a good rhetorical joust on that one. Spinny Watson, I think this is a good point. Time to bring in your comment here, and you're saying, to be fair, he has invested all his time into being a politician, so he can't just switch to being a labor worker or another career. Kind of true. He's fairly young. He basically started a bunch of fake businesses and consulting firms and stuff. That's, I guess, a kind of way of being a politician and playing the game and lying about stuff and getting money. So yeah, I'm gonna agree with you that he can't necessarily just suddenly switch it up and choose another career path, but I think he'd be okay outside of Congress, unless he thinks that being outside of Congress is where he's gonna get arrested, in which case, well, he's been a very bad boy.
Show any documents to prove your innocence until now, because you're being accused for a long time.
Well, because the media is not jury or the judge, so I will present that to the jurist and to the judge in this courthouse.
And to the Congress.
Well, if Congress requests it, I will present it to them as well.
So are you
All right, I'm gonna cut it off there because he starts to just repeat himself a bunch, and I think you get the idea of where he is at when it comes to all the things of where he's going to try to defend himself. So let's continue on with some more of the copy. So it seems, folks, that he isn't going to go quietly, and in fact, he plans to seek re-election, as we just heard. And that could in fact hurt the Republican chances of retaining that seat in Congress next year, and possibly Congress in general, because the majority is so narrow. His Republican colleagues, of course, are not at all happy with his decision to remain in office. We're going to turn now over to some of those comments from those colleagues now, starting up with Nancy Mace while being interviewed by the CBC.
It'll be the reason that we lose that seat. We really should keep our own, hold our own accountable, and recruit someone who's going to be better and can win that seat and keep it in Republican hands would be great.
And Congressman Mike Lawler of New York. Congressman,
Watching
you have
him.
Repeatedly called.
So this is on Morning Joe on MSNBC. We're going to listen to what he says here about a minute or so, just to get a kind of idea of where the Republican thoughts in general about him are right now.
Called on George Santos to resign from Congress. Your reaction to the news of these charges?
Well, it is not surprising, but disappointing nonetheless. Obviously, his conduct has been embarrassing and disgraceful. None of us are perfect, but you need to have.
It's embarrassing and disgraceful, but this is a post-Trump Republican Party, so really, I don't necessarily know if the base actually gives a shit.
Have a little bit of humility in this business, and if this is the best we can do representing us in Congress.
Oh my God. The leader of the Republican Party, the front runner in the Republican primary for president in 2024 is Donald Trump. To have any notion that humility is a value Republicans give about is absurd.
Or at any level of government, I think it speaks volumes to where we are as a country. And so, I think...
not where we are as a country, where you are as a party. The Republican Party gets roughly 50% of the vote. We're 40 to 50, depending on the county, right? And then the state, if we're going to break it down like that. So the majority of the country doesn't support these people, okay? But the majority of Republican voters do, and they don't care. Stop saying this is where we are as a country. No, this is where you are as a party with your base. Try to fix your base.
George had any decency or dignity, he would resign.
He doesn't.
I've repeatedly called on him to resign since these allegations first surfaced.
All right, we're going to cut it off there to beat the 1 minute censorship point. So we're going to continue on now to another, and we're going to now continue on to Kevin McCarthy answering questions at a little press gathering when he was walking through the halls of Congress about what he thinks of George Santos.
Are you going to support him? No, I'm not going to support him. You're not? So you guys will work to try to defeat him in the primary? I think he has other things to focus on his life than running.
So you don't plan to support Santos for re-election?
That's what I said.
All right, so there we see Kevin McCarthy said that he is not going to support George Santos for his re-election campaign to the 3rd District of New York. Whether or not he gives him money in the primary or the general election should he get through the primary, or if he's going to give money to his primary opponent to make sure that he doesn't win, is a little up in the air, based, in my opinion, based on his responses there. But it's clear that his party is done with him to an extent. Let's get into it. So yet among all the calls on him to resign, no one in Republican leadership has gone as far as saying that George Santos should be expelled from Congress. This is in fact a power that Congress has, but has used very rarely. Furthermore, there is disagreement on whether that a power extends to actions taken by a member prior to being elected. According to the constitution.congress.gov, quote, the House Rules Manual, for example, reflects different interpretations of this power. While previously providing that both houses have distrusted their power to punish in such cases, it no longer makes such a statement. Similarly, a House Select Committee investigating the possible expulsion of John W. Langley started in 1925 that with practical uniformity, the precedents in such cases are to the effect that the House will not expel a member for reprehensible action prior to his election as a member. So that may be a little bit of a problem. Yet at the same time, Article 1, Section 5 of the U.S. Constitution states that, quote, each house shall be the judge of elections, returns, and qualifications for its own members. This would lead one to believe that Congress is to be the final judge on someone's fitness for office. Another check on the people's will, so to speak. Again, with like a supermajority of people voting to expel a member. Can't be just one party, it has to be, or one faction, it has to be multiple factions representing a supermajority to expel a member of Congress. With all that said, though, the U.S. Supreme Court in Powell versus McCormack in 1969 limited this power to refuse to seat an elected member when the individual does not meet the specific constitutional requirements of age, citizenship, or residency. So given the conflicting legal theories surrounding expulsion and the narrowing of the Constitution by the Supreme Court, we should give Republican leadership the benefit of doubt here. In fact, yes, I am saying we should give Republican leadership the benefit of doubt. Shocker, I know. They may in fact earnestly believe that they do not have the power or the authority to hold their members ultimately accountable by removing them from office. Now, I believe that the Warren Court limited the requirements a bit too much And I personally would like to see Congress challenge that ruling with another example. George Santos has proven to be a liar and a con artist. Even without being found guilty of the crimes mentioned earlier, his actions are such that he should not be in Congress. Sadly, there is no incentive in Congress to push this issue at this time, especially given how narrow the majority is and all the other pressing business before them. But with that, we will continue to report on this as it develops, and you can be sure to check into the weekly news roundup